The following video is not made for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to my subscribers, this is the TFangy coming to you with what will hopefully be a quick and successful double review. Tonight we're going to be taking a look at two Transformers action figures, and the reason why I decided to do them at the same time is because one of the figures is a repaint with a some slight retooling of the other figure, and so tonight we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Legacy United Deluxe Class Autobot Windblade and Decepticon Slipstream. So Slipstream is the first figure that was released in the Legacy United line, and then Slipstream was released a few waves later. Windblade is the original version of this mold, and Slipstream is the repaint / retool. But I figured since it's the same mold done in Autobot Red and Decepticon Purple, I figured why not do both figures in the same review. I'm recovering from a cold, so if I keep touching my nose or if I cough or make any noises like that, it's because I'm just getting over a cold that I had for the past week. So, quick close-up of Windblade first while she's still inside her box. We got some artwork of her jet mode. There she is inside the box. Legacy United was the last main line of Transformers action figures that had open windows. Plastic windows have been brought back for the Age of the Primes line. So there's some artwork of Windblade's face, and there's some image of her robot mode right there, so that's pretty nice. There, on this side of the box, Windblade has half of the poster image for the Legacy United line. Since it was 2024, it was 40th anniversary of the Transformers franchise. On the back of the box, you've got Windblade's robot mode and her alt mode again of a VTOL jet. She transforms back and forth in both modes in 16 steps. And then here is Slipstream. Again, repaint with a new head sculpt of Windblade. I don't know if she has any more retooled parts in her robot mode. I believe that the head sculpt is the only difference between the two of them. The only other distinction apart from having different heads between Slipstream and Windblade are the different paint jobs. So there's some artwork of her jet mode, her head, and robot mode as well. Slipstream does come with different weapons from Windblade. Windblade has just one sword, which was the weapon of choice that fans voted for Windblade to have when she was created by Transformers fans back in 2014 for the 30th anniversary of the Transformers franchise. Slipstream was introduced in the Transformers animated cartoon back in 2008 as a clone of Starscream. In Transformers Animated, the Decepticon Seeker Jets, they were all clones of Starscream that he created. And they each had one of his personality traits. When Starscream asked Windblade what part of his personality she was, her response was, "Don't ask." And what was just supposed to be like a one-time thing where you had a female version of Starscream, Slipstream's now become a prominent and popular Transformers character, or since her debut in Transformers Animated back in 2008. She wasn't originally named Slipstream in the animated cartoon. She got that name the following year in 2009 when Takara Tomy decided to name her Slipstream. She was originally known as Female Starscream. So with her Legacy United action figure, just like Windblade, Slipstream has officially been retroactively been made a Generation 1 Transformers character, so that's pretty nice for Hasbro to do that. Coming around here to the back of the box, there's her robot mode and her jet mode, and oddly enough, unlike Windblade, who transforms back and forth between both her modes in 16 steps, Slipstream only transforms into 15 steps. I don't know if the Slipstream having one step less than Windblade is due to how the new head sculpts transform, or if it's because of the weapon storage. I honestly don't know. But yeah, they're both pretty great in their own right. And for those of you wondering why Hasbro decided to make Slipstream a repaint of Windblade with a different head sculpt when she was originally mold mates with Starscream in Transformers Animated, the main reason why that was done is because of these action figures right here, which I'll bring out a little later for a size comparison. This is Windblade's first ever Transformers action figure. This is the Generations Thrilling 30 Windblade figure that was released in 2014. And after this figure was created for Windblade by Hasbro in 2014, the following year, in 2015, Takara Tomy took this mold created for Windblade and they decided to repaint and retool Generations Thrilling 30 Windblade into an action figure of Slipstream for their Japanese exclusive Transformers line, Transformers Legends LG. This is what kind of started the idea of Slipstream being an evil doppelganger to Windblade rather than just being a female version of Starscream. Was these two action figures released in 2014 and 2015. The Generations Thrilling 30/Legends versions of these two action figures. And so Hasbro decided to, for the Legacy United line, they decided to duplicate what Takara Tomy did with the Generations Deluxe mold for the Legacy United line. So, those of you wondering, yeah, the Legacy United line, it isn't the first time that Slipstream has been a repaint of Windblade. So, with that out of the way, let's get these two bots out of their boxes and take a close look at them in their robot modes. Alright, and so here are Slipstream and Windblade out of their packages and transformed into their robot modes. Because they didn't retool Slipstream's arms, the only place you can really put her null rays, attach them to her, is on the underside of her arms like this. The images on her box and on the artwork, and the images on the instructions and on the box show her actually holding them inside her hands. If you wanted to attach them to her wings, and have them in the position that they would be in for her alt mode. If you want to try and make an optical illusion of her having them on the sides of her arms, you can attach them to using one of the sets of 5mm ports on her wing. Things like this. The only sculpt difference between Slipstream and Windblade is their head sculpts. So here's a close-up of Windblade. Her comb is detachable and can be used as a weapon if necessary. And of course, she has her sword, which is the blade is made out of energon. Unlike her Thrilling 30 Generations figure, Windblade doesn't have a sheath. Instead, the sword itself, using one of the clear plastic 3mm ports here on the here by the hilt of the sword, you can attach it to her. Or you're supposed to attach it to her. This 3mm port here on her thigh like that, so she can have it sitting there in a defensive position. But it's just the sword itself, and because it's clear plastic, I only recommend doing that if you absolutely want to display Windblade in that regard. And again, just like Windblade, Slipstream, her weapons aren't made out of black plastic. If you look clear here at the tips where blast effects can be attached to, the weapons, Slipstream's null rays are actually made out of clear plastic. You can kind of see the clear plastic right there where it's pegged into the wing. And they were painted over in black. Why they weren't just done in black plastic, I honestly have no idea. Yeah, but just be mindful that the weapons on both of them are made out of clear plastic, not solid plastic. In the photos on Windblade's box, it shows her having the her VTOL engines, vertical takeoff engines. It says that the side that's unpainted you're supposed to have facing the front when she's in her robot mode. Why they didn't paint both sides of her VTOL fans silver, I honestly don't know. Slipstream's fans are unpainted. So in that regard, she actually has one less paint app than Windblade does because of that. But otherwise, they're both pretty fun deluxe class Transformers figures to have. And again, bringing those other figures I had out a moment ago for a size comparison, here they are next to their Generations deluxe class figures from 2014 and 2015. Put them in the back so I can get them on shot here with my camera. The swords keep getting in the way. The Thrilling 30 Windblade mold, it really does not like to stand up. And up, especially with the Slipstream version of the mold. But yeah, there they are. Here are the Legacy United versions of the two of them next to their Generations counterparts that were released 10 years earlier. And again, everything on them is the exact same thing. So, just like the Generations figures before them, the Legacy United version of Slipstream is a straight-up repaint of Windblade, just with a new head sculpt, just like her Takara Legends Thrilling 30 figure that was actually released in 2015. Now, there have been a handful of action figures of both Windblade and Slipstream that have been released since the first Windblade figure, which was the Generations Thrilling 30 figure back here, was released back in 2014. And again, as I said, the figure does not like to stand up at all. Well, you have to get Windblade in the very right position, and also on the Thrilling 30 mold, the heel spurs fold up into the inside of the ankle, so if you don't have them at a good angle to get where Windblade will stand up, then she'll fall over at a moment's notice. But even though, as I was trying to say a moment ago, even though there's been a handful of action figures of Slipstream and slightly more action figures of Windblade, most of the action figures of them are ones that I haven't really been too fond of wanting to collect. And between both of these characters, I have only 5 figures of both of them. These are the only 2 action figures of Slipstream that I currently have in my Transformers collection. For Windblade here, in addition to her Legacy United and Generations Thrilling 30 figure, I also have her Titans Return action figure that was released in 2016. So, just for a quick special group shot, here's my entire collection of Windblade and Slipstream action figures. I was kind of hoping back in 2016 during the Titans Return line that Titans Return Windblade would also be repainted into Slipstream as well, but that never happened. I guess as that was where Hasbro and Takara Tomy decided there was no need to do a Slipstream figure of Titans Return Windblade, but I still think that would have been nice to see. So, that is my collection of Windblade and Slipstream figures in robot mode. And so, using Windblade since she was the original mold, for articulation, the heads can spin to the left and the right that far on Windblade. On Slipstream, out of the box, her neck joint's a little tight, but she can turn left and right just a tiny amount. If you can get the wings to fold back, which is kind of difficult due to the nose cone of the jet making the backpack, the arms have the potential to spin 360 degrees, east clockwise and counterclockwise at the shoulder, but the back kibble will get in the way. Bicep swivel, hinged elbow, swivel joints in the wrist, waist articulation, legs can go out this far, they can go forward this far, they can go back this far. Out of the box, the joints are still a little tight. A swivel joint at the top of the thigh. Knee joint right here, so good knee articulation. Ankle pivots, and the toes can go up and down as well. So yeah, a lot of articulated joints for both Windblade and Slipstream here. And yeah, they are very impressive figures, each in their own right. Even though the only difference apart from their different head sculpts helps that differentiates them are their different weapons and their paint jobs. So I've always liked the idea of Slipstream and Windblade being rivals with each other. And the idea of Slipstream being mold mates with Windblade instead of Starscream. Fans are divided amongst what's the appropriate character for Slipstream to share a body design with, Starscream or Windblade. Me personally, I don't care. I enjoy either one of them. I just hope we get more action figures of both of them in the future someday. But because the Legacy United figures came out just last year in 2024, something tells me it might be another year or two before we see at least another action figure of Windblade. But before we move on to their alt modes, one last thing I will say, I do enjoy the Transformers cartoon series that they have appeared in. I haven't followed the recent series. The last Transformers cartoon show that I watched regularly was Transformers Cyberverse, so I haven't watched Transformers Earthspark or the other cartoon show that came out recently. But I did enjoy Slipstream's appearances in Transformers Animated back in 2008, and then again in Transformers Cyberverse. Same thing with Windblade, her appearances in Transformers Robots in Disguise 2015, and Cyberverse. I did enjoy those appearances of her as well. And on that note, it actually amuses me that Slipstream, even though she was the first character introduced in Transformers Animated in 2008, and Windblade came out 6 years later in 2014, it amazes me that Windblade is the character who gets the mold, who's the original version of the mold, and then Slipstream's the repaint / retool. I just find that a little amusing. So without further delay, let's get both of these Fembots transformed into their alt modes, and we will wrap up the review. Alright, and so here are Slipstream and Windblade transformed into their alt modes of VTOL, vertical takeoff jets, and I gotta say they're both each impressive in their own rights. As far as who has the better paint job, I honestly enjoy them both equally. I love the fact that Windblade is red just like the Autobot faction symbol, and same thing with Slipstream being purple like the Decepticon faction symbol. As far as weapon storage, Slipstream definitely has Windblade beat out with the her two null rays being able to store underneath her wings right here and give her the Seeker jet look better than Windblade does. Officially, what you're supposed to do with Windblade's sword is there's 3mm ports right here in between her robot mode feet. You're supposed to stick her sword here on the back, kind of like this, and then the blade, the energon. The reason why it has this flame motif here is so that it looks like exhaust fumes coming from the back of her vehicle mode. But for me, that just looks a little silly. The only other weapon storage for the Windblade sword is there's a 3mm port right here, right there, which is supposed to be for a flight stand if you wanted to have Windblade look like she's flying around. Now that's the only other weapon storage for her sword, is plugging it in right there on the underside of her. You still kind of technically get the flame motif with the jet fumes coming out of the back, when you do it, look at her from an overhead shot. But I just wish they would have designed the better weapon storage for Windblade's sword, or here for her alt mode. But other than that, I really enjoy how both of them turned out. Setting Slipstream off to the side for a moment. Here is for some size comparisons. Here is Legacy United Windblade with her Thrilling 30 Windblade action figure, and as you can see, Windblade has a lot more red now than black, like she did on her Thrilling 30 figure. The idea was that Windblade transformed into a mostly black jet, and when she transformed into her robot mode, that's where all the red came out. It's an idea that goes back to Generation 1 on with a handful of characters where the robot mode has a different paint job from the alt mode. There's some Transformers action figures that can pull off color changing the looking like they've changed color when they transform back and forth between robot mode and alt mode. But most times when Hasbro and Takara Tomy try to do that, for me personally, the color change gimmick between robot mode and alt mode, it doesn't always work out for the best. And then just for a size comparison, here is with all three Windblade action figures that I have in my Transformers collection. Here is Legacy United Windblade next to both Thrilling 30 Windblade and also Titans Return Windblade. So as you can see, it's kind of hard for my camera to get them all in screenshot without having to adjust it. But yeah, there's all three of my Windblade action figures in their VTOL jet modes. And here is Slipstream once again, and for a size comparison, here she is next to her Takara Tomy Legends LG / Thrilling 30 action figure, and trying to see if I transformed her correctly. I did. So here she is next to her Thrilling 30 action figure. So yeah, Takara Tomy was the company that started the trend of Slipstream being a repaint / retool of Windblade instead of Starscream. This technically was the second action figure of Slipstream that was made. The first was the Transformers Prime version of Slipstream, which was a straight-up repaint of the first edition Deluxe Class Prime Starscream action figure. But regardless of who she's a repaint and retool of, I just enjoy having action figures of Slipstream here in my Transformers collection. And just in a vain attempt to try to get them all on screen, here are the other Windblades here one more time. I'm sorry they don't quite all fit on camera perfectly. But yeah, there's Legacy United, Windblade and Slipstream with the other action figures of them that I have in my Transformers collection. Like I said, there are more action figures of Slipstream and Windblade out there than just these 5 deluxe class figures, but out of all the figures that have been released, these are the ones that I've found worth adding to my Transformers collection. So yeah, all in all, they're a pretty fantastic duo of Transformers action figures, and for the final proverbial question of the review, do I recommend getting both the Legacy United Windblade and Slipstream action figures and adding them to your Transformers collections? Absolutely. You cannot go wrong having these versions of Windblade and Slipstream in your Transformers collections, even if you have other action figures of them. And I do recommend getting both Windblade and Slipstream. They're both pretty fantastic Transformers action figures in their own right. And yeah, I'm just really thrilled to have even more action figures of the two of them here. So thank you guys all so much for watching. This has been the TFangy. Keep an eye out for more reviews coming. And until next time, you guys, stay safe, stay healthy, transform and roll out. Goodbye, everyone. Ta-da-da-da-da-da.